Welcome to The Point.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? And welcome once again to The Point, the second ever episode. Again, if you don't know who I am, my name is Rick. I'm your boy. And on the other side of this screen right here, tell them who we got.
Got the man, the myth, and wannabe legend, Haystacks.
Haystacks, alive and well. Good to see you, brother.
You too, man. You too.
All right, now we got a lot to talk about. Last time, first of all, I'm give a huge shout out to all the fans of The Point, to everybody who's clicked, liked, subscribed, all that jazz. The first episode was a huge success, other than YouTube, of course. Raped us on our views a few times. But nonetheless, we're still climbing, still doing the damn things. I want to say thank you. Shout out to all of you guys and girls. Appreciate you, appreciate you, appreciate you. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, when you subscribe, hit that little bell, pound that sumbitch, and hit all notifications. That way you get all the latest and greatest, the fast breaks, the point episodes, and everything in between. Now, Scotty, I had a interesting, we'll go ahead and jump right into it here. I got an interesting, I believe you sent it to me. I got an interesting picture earlier this week, an interesting concept before we get into the XFL and all other things we're going to cover. The picture that was sent, it was a weird concept, NFL and XFL. Now,
Right.
this person suggested that at the end of every NFL season, the winner of the XFL championship should play the worst NFL team that season. If the XFL team wins, they get promoted to the NFL, and the NFL team will be demoted to the XFL. Now, that's something that people would watch, according to this individual. I want to hear your take on this real quick, because me personally, I don't view the XFL lower than the NFL, personally.
Right. It's one of those things to where it makes sense. It really does. I don't know if you remember years ago, they used to do that in basketball. They used to have the all-star team play the college kids, and it was for charity.
Right.
Years ago, I believe that stopped in the mid '90s. They had a charity game, and it was the collegiate all stars, the NCAA all stars versus the NBA all stars.
I do.
And yes, probably 90% of the time, 95% of the time, the NBA guys won the game. But it gave those guys that experience in heading into the next level.
Right.
I like the concept on one hand, because it's basically what these guys are trying to do. These guys are guys that have spent years on practice squads in the NFL that went to the XFL, and they're trying to be seen and be refound to maybe get that next shot or get their first legit shot in the NFL.
Right.
Why not put them on the big screen? Why not give them that opportunity? And the same with the NFL. That would give these teams and these guys that are sitting here playing, saying, I'm making $20 million a year. What's the point in really going all out? If you demote them to the quote-unquote B League, these guys are going to be like, hey, wait a minute. I just was making $20 million a year. Now I'm making $20,000 a year.
Right.
Wait a damn minute.
Well, here's my argument. My argument, I don't know if you've noticed the NFL talent that have taken notice to the XFL, how many eyeballs we've seen on the sidelines, how many familiar faces, Hall of Famers, and current NFL talent we've seen on the sideline. Just today alone, Todd Gurley, I saw him. We've seen Troy Aikman. I can go down the damn list, but in a perfect world, it makes sense, but they're two completely different organizations. And, we know that probably will never happen, but still an interesting concept nonetheless. Now, I want to move on real quick. I think you have some news from the NASCAR. That's right. I said the NASCAR because I'm old now. And you have to
Yeah.
put the in front of everything. So I just want to go ahead and preface that and get that out of the way. So what's going on with the NASCAR and the Daytona 500 that went down today, right?
Well, we got a rain out. I did a fast break, snuck that one in on you. Everybody knows Rick's not a NASCAR guy. I'm trying to get back into it, especially with the rules changes. Yes, Rick lives 5 minutes from DEI, and I'm in Ohio. So, rain delay. I believe they're going to try again tomorrow. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on the pole. They had a crazy crash from what I've seen in the pit road. They shouldn't have been racing anyway, but kind of interesting to see how that goes.
So they got rained out. We're going to do it another day. We'll see what happens. Moving right along. I got some notes here. LA Wildcats head coach and general manager Winston Moss. He made modifications to his coaching staff. It was one of the big stories that came out of last week. And I can't say I blame him. And this is one thing I like about the XFL. They're not playing around. If you're not doing your job, if you're not succeeding at your position, whether it's behind the team or on the field or beside the field or on the field, whatever the case may be, your ass is gone. One of the changes they made, following their loss to the Houston Roughnecks that Saturday, Monday, Pepper Johnson was relieved of his duties as the team's defensive coordinator. Now, you have anything you want to add to that?
Here's my problem with how they're doing it. I agree that you need to nip things in the bud, but one game with a bunch of guys, it's their very first game. A lot of these guys haven't played the game of football in God only knows how long, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. I think you at least have to give these coaches at least to the midpoint of the season to try to get these kids to gel. I mean, if you look at the NCAA right now, look at Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan now, I believe, 5 seasons. Never beat Ohio State. Never beat his rival. He's never won his division. He's never won his conference. And it's been 5 seasons.
Well, I like it, and I'm going to tell you why I like it. I have to disagree with you just a little bit because the XFL in its reincarnated state is a 10-game season, right?
Right.
You've got one shot in making an impression. And I don't know if you saw that game. I watched that game, and that game, man, if I was the coach, because we all know that all teams are owned by the XFL and Vince McMahon. It's not privately owned, this, that, and the other. But if I was the coaching staff, I would have been right in line with how they felt about things. Now, to quote the coach, his comments were, Moss said, and I quote again, "We recognize that there are issues we need to address for the 2020 season. While these decisions are difficult, we have given the significant thought to this situation. We are here to put the best possible product on the field for our fans. We thank Pepper for his contributions to the Wildcats. We're looking forward to our home opener this weekend." Now, that's the professional way to put it. But what I hear when I hear Moss say that is, we want to win. In the NFL, you go halfway through the season, you go a whole season, and they kind of hem and haw around. And, what are you going to do with so-and-so? Is this guy's coaching? Is his job? Is it your DC in jeopardy? Is your OC in jeopardy? And what do they always do? They give the political answer. We'll have to reevaluate it. XFL ain't playing that shit. It's like our first game out, we got our ass handed to us. The guy's gone. We're gonna find somebody. Hey, and respectfully, appreciate your contribution, appreciate your help, but we don't. My take on it is that in the XFL with a 10-game season, you don't have time to you don't have the luxury afforded to you that you do in a 16-game season. You're a little bit more under the gun. Now, I want to turn this. I know we're on a limited schedule here, so something that caught me earlier this week that took me by surprise, and it didn't really take me by surprise, but the audacity of some people's, as you always say, some people's kids, man. So apparently the XFL reached out to numerous talent, okay? One of which being Colin Kaepernick, former 49ers Super Bowl quarterback Colin Kaepernick, Nike extraordinaire. Exactly. So former NFL star turned activist Colin Kaepernick was among a list of notable former NFL players that were invited to join the XFL. Ultimately, the two sides could not come together, and Luck was quoted as saying Kaepernick was requesting an exorbitant salary to play in the XFL. Now, let me go ahead and preface this right here, right now. Anybody with common sense already knows, because Kaepernick's not the only one. Anybody with common sense already knows there's a limited salary for each one of these football players, okay? But one thing that the XFL does that the NFL does not is the XFL requires all players and staff to stand for the national anthem. And that's just all I'm going to say about this. We'll get your take on it and we'll move on. Is that if Colin Kaepernick is so hell-bent on kneeling for the anthem and standing for what he believes in, why would he even have a number to throw out to the XFL if he truly believes in what he's saying? Why would he even have a number to throw out to the XFL if he already knows the XFL requires you to stand for the national anthem? Doesn't that hurt his cause?
Common sense hurts his cause. And you know, I'm just going to leave it at that without getting into a big, huge political rant. Because anybody with the IQ over French fry can poke holes into his whole social justice warrior horse shit calls all day long. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible right now because this subject really pisses me off. It actually pisses me off that the XFL would even bother to actually give the guy the time of day, especially seeing the display that that the defenders did for police and for public service. To turn around after that display of solidarity for public service and people in the public service field, and then to turn around and to even speak to a guy that has, to be very blunt, has shit on all of those people just to make a buck and to stay relevant in the limelight is absolutely disgusting to me. Mind you, this is a guy that thinks that he needs to make $20, $30, $40, $50 million a year, that his career average in all of his seasons, his career average hasn't led the NFL since 1978.
It only has one NFC championship ring. That was sketchy at best. With your boy, Harbaugh.
Yes.
That we were just talking about. Now, moving on, I'm gonna talk about someone else. I think there's no need to beat that horse. Hell, he beats it enough on his own. Another person who was in the news recently regarding the XFL that you may be a little bit more familiar with, Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football. Now, I don't know if you heard what exactly he had to say about the XFL this week, but if you didn't, let me bring you up to speed. On Twitter, because apparently you can't have a conversation without it being on Twitter anymore, comeback capital SZN, his Twitter handle, says, still alive if y'all ain't know. Just not playing for another league that's going to fold on you midway through the season. He goes on to say, if I never pick up a ball again, it's all love. I was the most lit, most relatable college football player to ever do it. Did things my way and made it way further than I ever could have imagined. The game gave me life, and I'll forever be grateful. What do you think of that?
As a Browns fan and as a football fan, Johnny Manziel ranks right up here, right up top as on the worthless piece of shit-o-meter with that last clown that we were just discussing. To have the audacity to come in as a quarterback that I don't recall ever has a professional NFL win, and to say that you've done everything that you wanted to do, either number one, you have really, really high regards for yourself, or your goals are set really low. Because if you go into the NFL and you've done everything you wanted to do as to putting on a jersey and leading the league in interceptions, more power to you, pal. You accomplished it.
Well, if anything, once you get to the pro level, I mean, nobody's doubting what he accomplished in the collegiate world. Okay, nobody's doubting that. Albeit he didn't do it with enough class, in my opinion. But he makes it to the NFL, and the only thing he led in my eyes is hot piss test. If I'm being completely honest with you, he was more focused on partying and having fun. And now that ship has sailed, he's trying to play the holier than thou card. Johnny, if you're listening, what you should do is swallow your pride. Get on board with the XFL and actually make a name for yourself. But, if you're doing well in your life, then God bless you. Move on. If you're happy, hey, everybody's got to walk their own path. That's your cross to bear, not mine. Now, Scotty, Haystacks, got some good news out of Guardians camp. I saw this earlier this week, and it really touched my heart. You know why. Everybody else knows why. Anytime, I love a feel-good story. All walks of life, black, white, brown, any ethnicity, religion. Hey, I'm all about anyone succeeding in life, and any feel-good story that comes from any of those backgrounds, I'm all about it. But one piece of news I picked up out of I can never pronounce this word, Rutherford, New Jersey, from the Guardians. They have this hashtag that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Hashtag on duty. And they pick, I can't believe, I don't know what they, let me look here real quick and see what they actually call this. Guardian of the Week.
Yes.
Yes, something to that nature. Guardian of the Game. So at the New York Guardians, this is a quote. We're always looking for individuals that live up to the on-duty hashtag. They're guardians of their families and their communities. So for the first award, they announced the first award this week. And it goes out to, and I'm going to give a special shout out right now to Chip Schofield, 49 years of age. Hope I pronounced this correctly. Naugatuck, Connecticut. They say he's exactly the person that they look for this particular award. He's been named their first Guardian of the Game. Unfortunately, 2 months into his retirement, he just retired after 20 years on the force. He was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer, a high-grade metastatic I can't pronounce this. A really bad.
That's out of our league.
Yeah, I mean, he was diagnosed with cancer, an aggressive form of cancer, and a large problem with that cancer is it's commonly misdiagnosed, apparently. But this man says, and I quote, "I'm not going to be one of these statistics. I'm not going to be a victim." He is fighting this, balls out. Brother, you have our support. You have our prayers. God bless you for your 20 years of service, selfless service with your life on the line to your community. God bless you. We love you. Shout out from the point. We're praying for you. Our thoughts are with you. And rock on. And Guardians, New York Guardians, appreciate you for that. Everybody knows I'm a DC Defenders fan, but shout out to the Guardians for pulling that off this week. What do you think about that? It's pretty cool, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pretty good stuff, man. 20 years in anything's a long time, but 20 years in that high stress environment, just to retire and then 2 months later be stricken with cancer and to have the attitude this man has, it's just, I can see why he was selected as guardian of the game, and God bless him. And again, Chip Schofield, we got your back, brother, up in Connecticut. Godspeed. Now, moving on. Houston Roughnecks quarterback PJ Walker. He was named the first ever star of the week after his first showing, the week 1 performance. Now, I have no problem with that at all. Walker, not only the first week, but this weekend, played his absolute ass off. And I believe this kid is going to be in the NFL very, very soon.
He's definitely got a good shot. He's definitely got a good shot at it. Again, we're 2 weeks in. We'll see what happens around week 8, week 9. But if he keeps trending up, his stock is going to move right on up.
Well, against LA, he was 23 of 29, 298 yards with 272 in the air, and had 4 touchdowns against the Wildcats. Just an absolutely insane game. He's not a very big guy. He's not a very big guy, but he's scrappy. He knows how to run. He's got the poise to stand in the pocket. I really, really, really like this kid, Haystacks. I'm really interested to see where he goes with the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
Let's see. The other thing that we touched on this in our first episode last week. We touched on this, and I had a feeling it was going to be brought up. And I don't know how in the hell anybody who's a coach in any professional football standing organization would not have a problem with it. But exactly what we thought came to fruition. And the coaches of the very first game, which is Jim Zorn's team, the Dragons, and the DC Defenders, they both watched the game just like any of us would do, whether it was recorded, DVR'd, whatever. They watched the game after the fact as it was aired, and they were both mortified at the fact that their calls were aired like they were. And you remember, me and you were talking the last episode and also behind the scenes. I noticed Jim Zorn was covering his mouth when he was sending in plays. And even the commentators on TV were kind of clowning on him. Like, hey, Jim, what are you covering your mouth for? We can hear you. Well, it's apparent now that Zorn nor Pep Hamilton had any idea the extent of their mic'd up, their audio on camera. Now, we knew this was coming. Now,
yes.
I want to read you a quote here. I've been up overnight trying to change some of the calls. I think everyone in D.C. knows by now that even is running to the right and odd is to the left. So 3.3 million people know whether we're running to the right or running to the left. This is Pep Hamilton. We knew that we would, that would be a factor, our calls being announced on the broadcast and live mic, but not until we actually watched the broadcast late Saturday night. And I said, oh, man, we have got to do something different now. Absolutely. You remember we talked about this. All the work that goes into memorizing those play calls. So if I have to give XFL one skid mark, that would most definitely be it.
Yeah, it's one of those deals to where, was it an accident? Because it only happened on ABC. Mind you, they were in a big war to try to get the contract with WWE with Fox. So, Was it a brilliant idea by Vince McMahon to kind of give backstage access that went awry? Or was it ABC kind of giving the old one-finger salute over the Fox deal?
Well, I understand the producers who work for, whatever, they're at the direction of the XFL. And what I think, my opinion, is see, it's still going on. I watched the games this weekend, yesterday and today, Saturday and Sunday. And it's still going on. You can still hear the play calls going in. It's just not as frequent. And the clutter has been cleaned up a lot. It's a lot cleaner and all that stuff. And I won't get into that right now. But it was the first game. All right, 2 years in the making. And I think they wanted to me and you have both been there, from the entertainment world. There's so much you want to put out there so fast that sometimes it doesn't make sense because it's just so much information for people to absorb at one time. And we're always talking about slow burn. You want slow burn. When the XFL didn't have that opportunity, 2 years, it's time to go, game on, the red light's blinking, boom. And they threw it all out there, and it was so much communication that it was so jumbled up. And I think we all saw that throughout the weekend, it kind of cleaned up. No, it did clean up. From the first game to the fourth game, Saturday afternoon to Sunday evening, it was a big damn difference. And I think going forward, even though they've cleaned it up a little bit, and it's not as bad as it was in the first game, which I understand why they did it again, eyeballs, excitement, getting people drawn in. These coaches are going to have to change the name of their plays every single week, and these players are going to have to relearn terminology every single week, and that's a luxury that the NFL has, and not having to do that these guys don't have. So in some regards, these XFL players are kind of behind the eight ball a hell of a lot more than NFL players, even though they're not getting paid the same amount of money. Coaches alike. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but at the same time, you kind of got to think, if these guys are trying to prepare to be in the NFL, say this season ends and, Cardell Jones, we'll use him as an example. Say he signs to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. He has a mediocre season. After one season, the Steelers say, okay, well, we're going to trade you. Well, same thing. He just spent 16 games trying to learn this playbook, and now he's got to learn an entirely different, a whole different team, whole different coaching staff, whole different playbook all over again. It kind of, in my mind, it kind of makes these guys stay on their toes, keeps their mind sharp, and prepares them for that next level.
Right. I mean, to be fair, let's be completely honest. A lot of the shit that's going on in the XFL, I have not seen any crazy off-the-wall plays. It's like, wow, I've never seen that before.
I've been waiting for the double forward pass.
That was attempted today. I saw that today. And apparently it's a penalty. And anybody out there watching, feel free to shoot us an email, pointiswhat@gmail.com, and correct me. I am ready and willing to be corrected, believe me. But I saw today, and I can't remember which game it was. It was a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage, which you can do. But apparently if you catch a pass behind the line of scrimmage and you don't pass it before crossing the line of scrimmage, it's a penalty. That's what I took out of what I saw today. Now, I had to do some research. Again, hit us up, pointiswhat@gmail.com. If you already know, hit us up. And like I said, we'll give you a shout out on the air or whatever. But that's really the only thing that I haven't seen anything crazy. I saw Cameron Artis-Payne. He ran out of the Wildcat a couple of times today. One successful, one wasn't successful in the red zone. One was a touchdown in the red zone. One was going for the extra point. But that's really it. I haven't seen anything crazy. I haven't seen any other than big plays that you would see anywhere, big passes and things like that. I haven't seen to this point through week 2 anything that's really jaw dropping like, holy hell, I haven't seen that before.
I can tell you one thing that I have not seen in the last 2 weeks, and that is anybody having the freaking ability to run the blessed football.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that here in a little bit, but there was only one person that stood out to me, one back that stood out to me this weekend, and I'm proud to say he's a former Carolina Panther. But the last thing I'll get to on this opener before we take a quick break and come back and get into these games, Haystacks, you know who Kony Ealy is?
I do.
Kony Ealy is near and dear to my heart. Anybody who knows I'm a North Carolina boy, born and raised, love my home state of North Carolina. I'm a Tar Heel, through and through, balls to bones, and a Panthers fan 110%. Kony Ealy is a former Panther, and some of you may remember him from the 2015 trip to the Super Bowl. Shh. I know. They didn't win. But Kony Ealy had a monster game. Kony Ealy is a beast. He's a very, very talented young man. But for those of you who know the Panthers and know Kony Ealy, you also know that Kony Ealy dropped off the map almost immediately following that Super Bowl. And I didn't know until recently, and thanks to the XFL, they did a little story on him, that Kony, he's with the Roughnecks. For those of you who don't know, the Houston Roughnecks, he had a nervous breakdown. It's his words, not mine. 28 years old. He went through a deep depression, didn't talk to anyone, couldn't work out, couldn't play football, couldn't do anything. He lost some family members. He just went through a really big battle with depression. And I'm going to say it right here, right now, whether he ever watches it or not, somebody tag him up. Kony, brother, again, just like the rest, got you back, praying for you, proud of you. You're kicking ass, taking names, and I have no doubt you're going to be back in the NFL very soon, living your dream, and keep kicking ass, keep taking names. You are a beast, and you stole the hearts of my family and all my friends when we watched you for years with the Panthers. And I'm very, very happy and pleased to see Kony back on the football field where he belongs. He is a beast. So for those of you who didn't know, there's where Kony Ealy is. Not a household name, but he damn well should be. Haystacks?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you hear an inspiring story of, somebody that had it all, lost it, and now they're on the rebound, you always have to pull for them. Hell, all of us have been there at some point or another. And, I don't know if there's people that's out there listening now, but, there's always somebody to talk to. There's always help out there. I'm sure that we can put up somewhere down below here the phone numbers that you can call. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you want to reach out to me. Everybody that knows me, my line's always open, man. Facebook Messenger. You can hit me up at Scotty Newland. I'm always up late. I'm always out to talk to anybody if you're having one of those days. There's always somebody out there that gives a damn. And, to steal a line from a famous guy, nobody in the world's got your back. These guys do.
Yeah, you better believe it, man. Look, depression, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we've all battled depression at some point, in some shape or form, on some level. And it's a biatch, for lack of a better word. It's affecting a lot of people in this country. So never look down your nose at somebody who's struggling. Never look down your nose at somebody who's battling depression or anything else like that, anxiety, because, man, it's a real thing. Been there, done that. But, Haystacks, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there in the Point universe, listen close, listen tight. We'll be right back. We're going to get into these games. We're going to take a short break, and make sure you stay tuned for next week's episode, which, by the way, if you didn't know, is Tuesdays. The first episode was Monday. This one, obviously, on a Tuesday. And this point going forward, they will be on Tuesdays. And real quick, before we take a break, I want to give a shout out. Next time we're around on the next episode, I'll give you his business name and his name. But for now, he knows who he is. Give him a shout out for making our shirts. This is from the entertainment world. Obviously, we won't get into it. But the people who know what this is about right here. Legendary shit. But anyway, Haystacks, and everybody else. Be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
Join us next week, February 25th, for episode 3.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the break. Sorry, I'm getting old. I had to use the potty. Had to use the little boy's room. Haystacks, that happens. That happens from time to time.
It does.
Now, so, going through our little test here, Scotty had some funny shit to say, and let's go ahead and put it out there. Go ahead and tell him what you said back in high school.
About the test, yeah. See here, we record on Skype, if everybody doesn't know, and we were finding out from our first show that when you come in, right off the rip, it sounds like you're yelling at everybody through a damn megaphone right off the front. So, now we learned this week, do our test 1 2 1 2 to kind of let our audio balance out, and it got me to kind of thinking back to the good old days. I had a high school teacher that used to call quizzes quizticles. So anybody that knows me, I'm a smart ass. I raised my hand and said, "Hey, Mr. G, so quizzes are quizticles, does that mean tests are testicles?" And for some reason, he didn't find it as funny, and I was suspended. So,
yep.
There's your walk down memory lane today.
Yeah, they dropped the hammer. They dropped the hammer on Haystacks. All right, so moving right along, we're going to get into it, the games, what everybody's here to hear about, the games. Me personally, I thought the game of the week was going to be the Guardians and the Defenders, man. And again, Cardell Jones did not disappoint. Everybody knows I am a DC Defenders fan. But the Guardians, man, the Guardians did not show up at all. I got here. Hell, my notes don't even make sense because it got so out of control. I'm not even going to touch it. For New York, the O-line was non-existent. Matt McGloin was running for his friggin' life. I've got the Defenders had 384 total yards to New York's 137. Even their yards per play, 5.9 for the Defenders and 2.9 for the Guardians. And again, total first downs, DC had 16 to New York's 5. New York had 5 first downs the entire game, man. It was insane. And check this out. Third down conversions. We talked about this before. Hell, the Defenders were only 9 of 18, but they were 50%. The damn Guardians were 1 of 11, man. 9% on third down conversions. You can't win ball games like that. And again, we're 0% from the red zone, while the Defenders were a shoddy 2 of 6. But hell, the final score said it all, 27-0. Defenders walk out again victorious and are now 2-0, one of only 2 teams in the XFL that are still undefeated.
Yeah, it looks to me like what we had here was a scenario of player 2 dropped their controller and went to the bathroom, and their buddy started the game without him.
That's exactly what it seemed like. And I'm disappointed because I really thought this was going to be the game this weekend.
I believe if you watch last week over, I believe that I am on record saying that this was probably going to be game of the week.
Me too. I truly believe that. It's crazy. The biggest difference, the biggest discrepancy, I said the rushing yards, we've already covered this. Apparently nobody in the XFL knows how to run the damn football. But that's neither here nor there. But I'll tell you this. DC had 210 more yards in the air than the Guardians did. That's right. You heard me correctly. 276 passing yards for the Defenders versus 66 for the Guardians. That is truly embarrassing. And what that's indicative of is an offensive line not holding up long enough for McGloin to get the damn ball out, plus receivers not getting open. I'm telling you right here, right now, based on what I heard from McGloin, the comments that he made, throwing his coaching staff under the bus, You heard it right here first from your boy Rick. Matt McGloin will not be a New York Guardian past week 4.
Really?
If that long. That's my.
I'm going to say come tomorrow, we're going to get breaking news, and we'll be doing a fast break that Mr. McGloin has been either traded or sent to the 40 team 9 or the 40 team number 9 status. Because from what he said in the presser and some of the things that he was saying on the sidelines when he was mic'd up,
Oh, yeah.
that kid's going to be lucky if he ever touches a football ever again besides coaching some damn flag football kids.
Are you ready for this? His quarterback rating, you want to take a guess? His quarterback rating was, hear me out here, 10.1. 10. Now, again, that's not solely on McGloin. That is not solely on him. Number 14 cannot do it on his own. He has to have time to throw the football. And on the other side of that coin, if you will, the receivers have to give him someone to throw the damn ball to. And what I saw was an offensive line that was elementary at best. They were not professional in any way, shape, or form. And that, call me devil's advocate here, I know the defenders are a damn good team. But at some point, your offensive line has to step up. They have to want it. And my fear is with the XFL is there's a lot of players over there like, well, I'm getting paid. You know, I'm on TV. My parents are watching me. They don't really give a shit about being in the NFL. They don't really give a shit about being in the XFL. That's my personal opinion. And at the offensive line of the New York Guardians, if you're watching, you're hearing this, you should be ashamed of yourself because that game was an absolute embarrassment, and the DC defenders whooped your ass on every single play. And Matt McGloin, I'm telling you, brother, you're a pro football player. Now, I don't know what that feels like. Haystacks, you don't know what that feels like. But for the love of Christ, man, have some self-respect. Have some professionalism on camera. The camera's put in your face, and I know, the XFL is all about, hey, you fumbled the ball, you ain't even off the field yet. And it's like, hey, it's WDIC speaking to the mic. You know, I understand. I understand that. But have some professionalism. You throw your coaches, you throw your team, you throw your offensive line, you throw everybody under the bus right off the rip. You can't expect your offensive line to want to bust their ass for you when you're throwing everybody under the bus. Haystacks, your thoughts?
Here's my. I'm gonna kind of disagree with you on this point. The kid's cocky and he's got a mouthful. He kind of reminds me of a Dennis Rodman of the XFL. He'll go out there and he'll run his mouth, he'll flip out, everything else. I like that. But don't do it on your teammates. You never saw Dennis Rodman in all the arguments and all the fights and all the conflicts that he ever got into. He never threw any of his teammates under the bus. He never threw his coaching staff under the bus. He always went after the other team, and that's what you need to do. If you're a quarterback of any organization, whether it's XFL, NFL, arena football, college football, high school football, if you're the quarterback of the team, you're the guy that's supposed to take the lead. You're the guy that's supposed to take the charge. You're the guy that it comes down to, it boils down to. You're the guy that has to motivate your team to want to play. And if you're sitting here going and doing interviews mid-game on the sidelines, you know, saying, hey, my team sucks, I'm the guy that showed up, everything else, that's not motivation.
Yeah, and I think that's something the XFL is going to, I told you before in the last episode, I think that is something that they're going to have to visit coming down the line, because I noticed there was a lot of players that were really irritated by being interviewed. There was one that had a hellacious interception today and ran it back and all this shit, and the little blonde-headed lady on the sideline ran up to him and stuck a mic in his face. She's like, how are you feeling after that? And he's like, I was open. I caught the ball, and he just walked off. He's like, I can't breathe. I just ran like 900 yards. So at the end of the day, it's real simple. The DC defenders are for real. And you heard it in the first episode, and I'm going to tell you again right now. The DC defenders will be your champions at the end of this season because they do things the right way, they act the right way, and they have the coaching staff to back it up. And I'm telling you right here, right now, Cardale Jones will be an NFL quarterback next season. Next NFL season. I'm telling you, he may not be a starter, but he will be in the NFL next year because he is a beast. Let me go back here because I know we're running, tight on time, so I'm going to try to get this done as fast as possible. We all know I'm long-winded. Cardale Jones, 23 of 37, 276 yards, 62% pass completion, 91.7 quarterback rating. He threw one interception. Shit happens. But he had 2 touchdowns, and his longest completion was 40 yards. That is a hell of a game. That is a hell of a game. So congrats again to the DC Defenders Guardians. I know you're going to get your shit together and come back even stronger in the next game. I don't have it in front of me who your next game is. But moving on, Tampa Bay Vipers, Seattle Dragons. Now, judging by week 1, this was a game of the bottom dwellers, the bottom feeders, as far as I'm concerned. I know that's harsh from one game, but it is what it is. Everybody knows I like to talk a little shit, but I'm a realist, and I wasn't expecting much from this game. In fact, XFL Play, the app, everybody knows I'm a fan. I'm also a member of the fan from the XFL, the fan focus group, and all that shit. Look, man, I came really close. Haystacks, man, I got my heart broke. I thought I was going to make some money. I had all 3 games that they had me select scores for, man. I was in the top percentile, top 10. And, thanks to Tampa Bay and the Dragons, man, I had the score set a certain way. And then as of Thursday night, I had to edit my scores because I was reading the news and shit that was coming up, and something just told me I was too high, and I backed it down, and I was damn near spot on. But I got to tell you, this game for me, there was a funny meme you shared with me earlier in the week about the Vipers. And I hate to say this. I know the Browns are your team. I know they are. Don't mean any disrespect. But the Tampa Bay Vipers remind me of the XFL's version of the Cleveland Browns.
Shots fired.
In recent years. I'm sorry, Scotty Haystacks. I'm sorry. But it just seems to me, at least the damn Browns are trying, man. It's like the Vipers are not even, it's like they just don't give a shit. Now, is that too harsh?
It's something about Florida, man. It's something about Florida. Look at the Florida State Seminoles this past couple seasons. Horrible. Miami Marlins, they get like 45 people that show up to watch their games now. Yeah. The Dolphins, they haven't been relevant since Ricky Williams got caught smoking dope. I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's a Florida thing, man. It's all about Florida. I don't know what it is about their teams, but Florida just has this stank on it here lately.
To be fair, Jacksonville had some success. Miami had a little bit of success in recent years. But one thing I want to touch on is the Seattle Dragons, playing at Qualcomm Stadium. And I got to tell you, I understand, they didn't sell out, of course. But that's all. Everybody knows that's a loud-ass stadium. And even half full, that stadium's louder than most in this country. And I did happen to notice that the Seattle, I swear, one of the biggest things right behind the field, I don't know if that's a middle finger to the XFL or what it is, but right behind the goalpost, you have I believe it's the Seahawks nest. I guess that's where the premium ticket holders sit.
Right.
They did not allow one person to sit in that section. So right behind the goalpost, it was completely blank, man. But nonetheless, that stadium, Qualcomm Stadium, was rocking and rolling. Now, I mean, it was loud, not as loud as Seahawks when they're playing. But to touch on a few things that, I did a fast break last week about Aaron Murray and all that stuff, and Aaron Murray got the nod and he was starting. He's already dealing with injury. You remember in the first week, in that first game, I can't remember who they were playing off the top of my head. Please forgive me. But he came off the field because everybody's mic'd up. He came off the field grabbing his ankle, and the coach said low or high, and he said low immediately because God forbid he don't want to be snatched from the game. Well, apparently it was a little bit worse than he thought it was, and he was not the starter for this week. They started is it Cornelius? Yeah, Taylor Cornelius in his place. Now, lackluster to say the best, 16 of 27. 59% with a 44.4 quarterback rating. He threw 2 interceptions. So they let Flowers into the game, number 9. He goes 3 of 7, 43% completion with a 10.7 quarterback rating. And he throws a damn interception. Yeah, I mean, hell, Haystacks, me and you could have been out there and did better than that, for Christ's sake. But what is that indicative of? Is that indicative of the offensive line for the Vipers, or is that indicative of their talent level at quarterback?
It could be a number of things, really. It could be the line not giving the quarterback time. It could be the receivers. Here's the thing with the XFL that's interesting. They've got this team number 9 that you can kind of draft people from and everything else. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the first part of the show with, coaching changes so quick. When these GMs / coaches picked their teams, drafted their teams, and what have you, and then they hired in their coaches, it makes me wonder how much input their coaches got on who they drafted. And, how much they're looking at this team 9 instead of just trying to stick with these kids. But it's a hard call, man, because you invest your time into these kids, but at the same time, you don't want to hurt your organization if the kid's just not going to make it.
Yeah, here's what blows my mind, man. This is I don't know what the answer is for the Vipers, nor is it my problem. But somebody's going to have to figure some shit out, and they're going to have to figure it out now. Because, just for instance, the Dragons didn't do that well in this game. They just didn't. They had 199 total yards of offense. The Vipers had 289 yards of total offense. Hell, they had 19 more offensive plays than the Dragons. And hell, they averaged more yards per play. And not only that, listen to this. Third down, they were 9 of 17, 53% on third down efficiency. And the damn Dragons were 2 of 10 for 20%. But both teams were 0, big goose egg, in the red zone. But at the end of the day, somehow the Dragons come out with the victory.
And mind you, here's another little interesting tidbit. The Dragons had 3 receivers. Yes, I said receivers. That had negative yardage. I have never in my life seen that.
Oh, yeah. Dude, here, let me tell you what one of the tells of the tape for this game is real simple. Penalty yards. The Vipers had 99 yards, penalty yards, versus 53 for the Seattle Dragons. When you got a game that's that close, those yellow handkerchiefs make a big damn difference. And we all know in the XFL, A lot of these penalties that come down the pipe could be half the distancers. You know what I mean? And those are game killers. Now let me look here on defense. The Vipers had a couple of sacks. I see an interception here. So
They did have one interception.
right, they have one interception. Silvers. While we're talking about that, Silvers, he went 7 of 18, 39% completion. I mean, an abysmal day for him, a 50.9 quarterback rating, not the best in the world, but he had a touchdown and he also had one pick. But again, the Vipers had 3 picks, spread out over 2 quarterbacks with a combined quarterback rating of 54, 55.1, whatever the hell. Just a real shitty day for the Vipers. Scotty, Haystacks, what's the answer for the Vipers going forward? Week 3, desperation time. In my opinion, desperation's here. Jim Zorn's got a lot to prove. Where do they go from here?
Badly need to look at that team number 9 and see if they can get themselves a damn quarterback.
True story. True damn.
If you don't have a line that is holding, you need to get yourself a mobile quarterback that can scramble and buy himself some time.
Cam Newton. Excuse me.
So that's where I would be at this point in juncture. If I was Tampa Bay, I would be looking at team number 9. I would be trying to sign myself the most mobile quarterback that I can possibly get my fingers on at this point to try to save the last 8 games of my season.
Yes, sir.
You got NFL with 10 games. You get down 3-4 games, you're done.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I'd be the first one to tell you. Everybody. I'm a fan above all else. And I'm one of those guys that if it ain't going well, again, I'm a realist. Some people call me negative and shit. Call me what you want to call me. But I take it as I see it. Now, I see the potential, but I also see the downside. Jim Zorn has been around. He knows how to coach teams. But he's also not had a lot of success as a head coach. Look at his Redskins stint, for example. And that's now translating to the Vipers. Now, I know there's some people, the bleeding hearts that would, well, it's not Jim Zorn's fault. Well, who the hell's fault is it? The way I look at it, who the hell's fault is it? Who do you put the blame on?
It starts from an office and trickles its way down. It always has been and always will.
Look, if the damn offensive line ain't playing well, whose fault is it? Who's responsible for changing that? If the quarterback's not playing worth the shit, look, this ain't the NFL. There's no contracts where you can't wait. You have to wait till he's a free agent. You have to do all this. No, hell no. You saw the DC Defenders, and hell, I think it was the LA Wildcats. They traded a player the damn day before the games.
Yep.
What was it, Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, there is no, and he was a damn good, the one that DC let go of. He cornerback, I believe he played for Alabama. I may be wrong. Silv, I think it was. One of the ones I touched on in a fast break, I believe it was. But that bullshit, there's no excuses. At this point, you got to have a spine, and it's easier to have a spine in week 2 than it is in week 9. And Jim Zorn's been around. He knows better. And Jimmy boy, better get your shit together, brother. So moving right along. Now we come up on the Dallas Renegades and the LA Wildcats. Now I got to be honest. Haystacks. I know Dallas is your team. And I know you're probably smiling a little bit up there in Ohio, right? And I'm going to give you this one, right? Because Dallas played well. They did. Now, Landry Jones, on the other hand, not so much. Not so much.
He put up video game numbers.
Well, now, but before you get started, I'm trying to be even keel here. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be professional. I'm going to give it credit where it's due. The Dallas Renegades beat the LA Wildcats, yes, And they did it with Landry Jones, the prodigal son, right? I get it. I get it. 79.7 quarterback rating, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And this guy's supposed to be, he's trying to be the second coming.
Oh, come on.
28. No. 28 of 40, 70% completion. I'll give him that. He had 305 yards.
305 yards.
300. I'll give him that. But, his longest pass was 39 yards. That's a damn good chunk play. But you know who the star of the game was for me today? And yes, again, I'm going to say it again, another NFL reference, the Carolina Panthers. They're damn fools for letting this man go. Cameron Artis-Payne was 1 yard shy of a 100-yard day rushing on the ground. And let me tell you something right here and now. They were hard rushing yards. He busted his ass. He broke his back today for the Renegades. Cameron Artis-Payne, Cap, if you're listening, brother, what a game. What a game. I'm proud of you. Very proud of you. But the Dallas Renegades take it 25-18.
That's the difference with quarterbacks, because Landry played in Oklahoma, and if I'm not mistaken, he was there with a man that went by the name of Adrian Peterson. So he knows how to hand the ball off to his running back to make him look good.
And he also knows how to use a switch. Won't touch that one. But, yeah, you were talking about Landry Jones and, good numbers. I know you're proud of your team. You're proud of your boy. But number 8, Johnson, the quarterback of the LA Wildcats. Never heard this man a day in my life. Now, please forgive me if I'm being ignorant here. His quarterback rating, 89.8, right? 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, with only a 53% completion rate, and 196 yards. But if you ask me, they only fell 7 points short of beating the Renegades, brother. 7 points. That's not too damn bad against the prodigal son himself. I was expecting more.
Bad, but
I was expecting more.
I'm trying to get you some background information here. So, Mr. Josh Johnson with the LA Wildcats. He played collegiate football at San Diego and was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 5th round of the 2008 NFL Draft.
Ooh.
He has been a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, San Francisco 49ers, Sacramento Mountain Lions, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, New York Jets, Indianapolis Colts, Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, New York Giants, Houston Texans, Oakland Raiders, Washington Redskins, and the Detroit Lions.
Okay. Fair enough.
Despite 13 teams during his NFL career, he did not win his first game as a starter until his 11th season as a member of the Redskins in 2018.
Right on. Hey, fair enough.
To go through all that, nonetheless, and play the game that he did, it tells me that he's taking his game very damn seriously.
Very true. And it tells me he knows his system a little bit better, right? To be fair, Landry was not playing in the first game of the season. So, to be fair, 4 games from now, we may be talking about Landry Jones being MVP. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But 2 interceptions, man. 2 interceptions with first.
Yeah, I don't. I got to watch about an hour of that game. I love Landry, but the dude looked like he needed a walker out there during this game. The guy is just, he's beat up. He's old. In all honesty, if he makes it through the season, I'm going to be impressed. He's downhill quick, man. It's definitely not the Landry that I remember back in 2008, 2009, up to 2013, when he was coming up through Oklahoma.
Well, he had some big plays. There was a big – I remember one instance. There was a big pass interference call on Dallas. They really kind of set him back, and he ended up getting that back, a turnover almost immediately on the other end. And he had, right off the rip, had a damn hellacious pass. I can't remember how far it was, how long it was. I think that was the big one he threw. But he had some bright moments, man. But the killer, and here's the nitty gritty of it. If you're looking at it on paper, this is why Dallas won, and I can't believe they didn't win bigger than they did. They had 444 total yards versus 251 for the Wildcats. They ran 11 more offensive plays. They averaged over 2 yards more per carry. The biggest thing I see stands out to me, of course, and you're going to hear me talk about this all the time, is 26 first downs versus the Wildcats' 18. That's a big damn difference in first downs. That means you're moving the damn ball. They were 3 of 7 third down efficiency. This is what I don't understand, I don't get here. They were 3 of 7, 43% third down versus the Wildcats' 54%. But apparently they did more with their third down conversions than the Wildcats did. They meant more. In the red zone, again, both of them were all the Renegades were 1 of 3 in the red zone. The Wildcats were 1 of 4. So, again, at the end of the day, man, look, they just had more yards. They beat the Wildcats to death. And no matter how, considering there was 2 interceptions from Landry alone, the score really doesn't reflect. I think they got really lucky this time around. But by next week, or week 3, because we don't have any bye weeks in the XFL, I think Landry may be a little bit sharper than he was this week, but that remains to be seen.
The big thing is, just looking at stats real quick, it's the same thing that I said last week, and I'll say it again this week. It's a typical Bob Stoops defense.
True story.
That has been the plague of the Bob Stoops career. Is he does not pick a very good defensive coordinator ever, freaking ever. That's just the Bob Stoops way. You've seen a lot of Big 12 football in that game with Landry. I mean, he's the first quarterback in the league to break 300 yards, launching the ball, doing the air raid. That's air raid football. That's Big 12 football.
Absolutely.
By the end of the season, if Landry can stay healthy, and if Artis Payne keeps staying the way that he is and running the ball as hard as he is, I'm telling you right now, you're going to start seeing with every single Dallas game, you're going to be seeing 40, 50 to 48 to 50, 55 to 50 games. You're going to be seeing some Big 12 football every time the Dallas takes the field.
Well, before we move on to the last game, I got to give a shout out to Dixon, number 36. Man was all over the field. He had 2 assists. He was combined for a total of 8 tackles. He had 6 on his own. He was all over the field for the Wildcats, man. Hell of a game. So I got to. Yeah, I don't want everybody to think that, hell, I'm not going to mention defense, because defense wins ball games. We all know that. So I want to give a shout out to him. Now, before I get started on this one, the BattleHawks and the Houston Renegades, holy shit, man. Did not see this one coming. It was the closest game of the weekend, week 2 of the XFL. But, man, Gates for the Roughnecks. This man had Luke Kuechly numbers. That's right, Luke Kuechly. Shout out to Luke. This man had 9 tackles, man. A sack was one of those tackles. I mean, he was all over the damn field. Now, for the team itself, um, my boy, and now, last week, damn it, never fails. I praised somebody, and they shit all over me.
Hey, this kid still had a pretty stout game, though. He
Yeah,
went total yards.
he did. He did. He had a good game. He did. Tamo, whatever, 30 of 37, 81% completion, 284 yards. My man had 3 touchdowns, but he threw 2 friggin' interceptions. Now, that being said, he still had a passer rating of over 103. Hell of a quarterback rating. He did good. He did really well. The 2 interceptions, you got to knock that shit off because your opposing quarterback, Mr. Walker, some little known guy named Walker nobody's ever heard from. He's playing his ass off, man. Walker is a beast. I'm telling you. It's coming down between him and Cardell for MVP of the XFL this year. And I'm telling you right now, Walker, 20 or 31, 65% completion for only 170 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns, man. What damn difference does it make what any of those numbers say? Touchdowns, points win ball games. Walker made it happen, and that's why the Roughnecks, not Walker by himself, but that's why the Roughnecks walked out winning this ball game. Now, you had some information on St. Louis, the fans of St. Louis.
Yes, and I actually have brand new news on St. Louis, and this is amazing. The city of St. Louis should be very proud. According to Tom Ackerman on Twitter, if anybody doesn't follow him, the XFL BattleHawks have only suites remaining for their home opener today. That's it. 2,000, or shoot, scratch, dyslexic moment, apologies. 27,500 seats are gone and they will not open the upper level. 27,500. If everybody remembers last week, I think they were like 11,600.
Yeah.
So they have managed to gain 16,000 fans in 7 days.
Unbelievable.
That's huge.
Unbelievable. But again, let me congratulations to St. Louis, man. They got robbed of a team, and we all know what that's about. I'm not going to get into it, but now they have a team back they can be proud of, somebody they can cheer for and root for and really get behind, and they are. And I'm not a St. Louis fan personally, but again, I want to see everybody succeed in St. Louis, other than when they play the Roughnecks, apparently, are succeeding in a big way. But here again, here's the killer. Scotty, Haystacks, look, the BattleHawks had 390 yards total offense versus the Roughnecks 238. So how the hell does that happen and you still lose the game? Well, they were 2 of 2 in the red zone. The Roughnecks were 4 of 4 in the red zone. I don't know if you can pick up what I'm putting down, but the Roughnecks got to the red zone more than they did. There was passing yards, ridiculous. 264 passing yards for the BattleHawks, while Houston had 160. There were over 100 yards more passing yards through the air. They had, let's see. Hell, the BattleHawks had 2 interceptions, and that right there tells the tape. But I say this every time, and we talk about this for every game. I'm going to say it again. Those yellow hankies, man. Those yellow hankies. The BattleHawks had 61 penalty yards versus 15 for the Roughnecks. When you add all that up and you tie a bow on that son of a bitch, that smells victory for the Roughnecks or any damn body else facing the team in that position. So your Roughnecks walk out victorious against the BattleHawks. Now, Where does I just want to hear your opinion on this. Where do you see the BattleHawks going from here? Do you think they should be worried right now, or do you think, well, it was 4-point loss, hard fought victory, whatever? What's your take on that?
It's kind of hard to tell at this point. I want to believe that it was just kind of a slip up and they're going to end up fixing the issue. But again, these are kids that haven't played ball. These are men that haven't played ball. Some of them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. I want to believe that they're going to turn the thing around, especially with the fan support that they're getting. But next week, they got another home game. They've got New York.
Yeah.
So that should be pretty interesting between two teams that are going to be coming in pissed off after a close loss.
Yeah, next week.
Ass whooping.
Next week, Saturday, February 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, we got the Houston Roughnecks and Tampa Bay Vipers, followed up at 5 p.m. same day on Fox. We got Dallas Renegades and the Sea Dragons. And then we've got Sunday the 23rd at 3 p.m. on ESPN, New York Guardians versus the St. Louis BattleHawks. And then, of course, FS1 at 6 o'clock, we got the Defenders taking on the Wildcats. That's the game that I'll be watching. I'll have my attention on that one more than any of the others. But if I had to call it now, we're going to go ahead and give our picks before we get off here. Who do you have winning these 4 games, brother? You give your picks, I'll give mine, and we'll get the hell out of here and let these people get back to civilized life.
Saturday, 2 p.m. I have got the Vipers pulling off at home the upset and getting their first XFL win versus the Roughnecks.
Wow, that's ballsy. You got the Vipers winning?
I've got them pulling off the miracle.
All right.
Obviously, I know that I'm going to go with my boys over the Dragons. Plus, it's the Dragons.
That's true. That's true.
Let's see. Sunday, game 1. BattleHawks Guardians, man. I think that right there, and again, this bit me in the ass, but I think that's going to be game of the week. That's going to be game of the week. I got the Guardians in a close one.
Ballsy move, my friend.
And then DC versus LA, I've got Cardell putting up some Madden numbers on LA.
So DC for you. All right. Let me go ahead and put it out there now. The Vipers will continue to lose.
Ooh.
Because they suck.
Whoa.
The Sea Dragons are going to whoop Dallas's ass. I'm sorry, buddy. And I think the Guardians are going to get that ass whooped because Matt McGloin is going to ruin that locker room.
I don't see McGloin being on that team come tomorrow.
Your game of the week, DC Defenders and Wildcats. DC winning huge. And there you go.
If DC loses, then I'm never going to let you live that down since we just spanked them, right?
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. I look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been episode 2 of The Point. And if you hadn't got the damn point by now, we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Ladies and gentlemen, again, at the bottom of your screen, right here, right somewhere in this general vicinity, there's the email address. Feel free. Don't be scared. Send us a message. If you got a question, you got a gripe, you got a beef, you want to be a guest on the show, hey, we're here to have fun, talk some shit, argue a little bit. If you're scared, say you're scared. Hell, if you're scared, jump in Haystacks hip pocket. But until next time, episode 3 coming 1 week away, and we're going to get right back on this. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, it has been your boy, Rick.
And the man, the myth, the wannabe legend.
I think you're more than wannabe, brother. I think you are a legend. There's a reason anybody who walks around with a nickname of Haystacks has already done some pretty cool shit. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, your boy Rick Haystacks signing off for The Point. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, pound that little bell, and we'll see you next week. We're out.
Thank you for watching The Point.